secret society gave Mark 1 hour to destroy his own father. If he pressed the button, he'd get everything he ever wanted. If he refused, they promised to bury them both. And the worst part? The evidence against his father was real. But Mark didn't know any of that yet, because right now, he thinks the nightmare is over. His muscles are failing, his throat feels shredded, but inside, he's celebrating. He survived Hell Week. The nightmare is over. At least, that's what he thinks. Because the second he walks inside, his stomach drops. Nobody is cheering. Nobody is smiling. The same guys he just suffered with are staring at him like he's already lost. His pulse starts pounding. Something is wrong. Very wrong. This isn't a welcome party. It's a trap. Julian is standing near the table with a drink in his hand, watching him like he's not even a person. Just a decision waiting to be made. Around him sit men who aren't students anymore. They're older, richer, more powerful. And they're staring at Mark like a test subject. They push him toward a table. His hands are shaking so badly he can barely open the folder waiting for him. Then he sees what's inside, and every thought in his head disappears. It's his dad, his quiet, hard-working dad, the man who sacrificed everything to get him here, the man who believed this opportunity would change his life. Mark stares at the photo, confused. Why him? He asks. He's a mechanic. He's nobody. Julian's expression never changes, because you still think he's somebody. And next to that photo is a countdown. 59 minutes, 58, 57. Mark feels his chest tighten, because suddenly he understands. They don't want his money. They don't want his effort. They don't even want his loyalty. They want ownership, complete ownership. And the price of admission? His father. One button destroys the man who raised him. One button opens every door he has ever dreamed about. Press it, and he gets the world. Refuse, and they destroy both of them. His vision starts to blur. His breathing falls apart. He can't think, can't move, can't understand how this is happening. Then, click. The lock turns behind him, and in that moment, Mark realizes something terrifying. Hell Week wasn't the test. It was the invitation. The real initiation has just begun. He rushes to the door, locked. His chest tightens instantly. No. This has to be a game, a test, some twisted loyalty exercise. Because his dad is just his dad, a tired man, a hard-working man, the guy who skipped meals so Mark could eat, the guy who worked himself into exhaustion to give him a future. There's no way this is real. So Mark attacks the files, desperately, looking for the mistake, the fake document, the lie, anything. Then he finds a bank transfer, and his stomach drops, a signature. One glance is all it takes. He knows that signature, that crooked letter, that heavy stroke. His pulse stumbles. It's his father's. Suddenly breathing feels impossible, but he keeps digging, because maybe there's still an explanation. Maybe there's still a way out. Then he reaches the oldest file. 15 years old. A stolen fortune. Millions gone. A fugitive disappears without a trace. Mark's hands start trembling harder, because every new page points to the same person, his father. His entire body feels numb, but then he turns one more page and everything breaks. A photograph, a missing child, 5 years old, kidnapped, taken by the fugitive. Mark stares at the picture. His mind refuses to understand it. Then his hand slowly rises to his own face. His heartbeat crashes against his ribs. Because he's not looking at a stranger. He's looking at himself. The room starts spinning. Every memory hits him at once. Every struggle, every sacrifice, every story his father ever told him, every moment they survived together. Mark always thought those memories proved how much he was loved. Now he doesn't know what's real anymore, because the man he called Dad wasn't running from the world, he was hiding from it. And 15 years ago, he didn't just steal a fortune, he stole a child. That child was Mark. The timer hits 30 minutes. Half his time is gone. Mark is sitting on the floor surrounded by pieces of a life he doesn't recognize anymore. His chest feels too tight. His thoughts won't slow down. Nothing makes sense. Then his hand moves on its own. He pulls out his phone and calls the only person who can tell him the truth. It rings. Once. Twice. Then, "Hey, kiddo." Mark almost breaks, because the voice sounds normal, comforting, familiar, like none of this is real, like his entire world isn't collapsing. His throat tightens. "Are you Arthur Vance?" Silence. Not 1 second, not 2, long enough to feel terrifying. Then a voice finally answers, but it isn't his dad's voice anymore. It's a frightened man's. "Mark." A shaky breath. "Where are you right now?" The panic in his voice says everything. Mark feels tears burning his eyes. "They have a file." His words explode out of him. "They have everything." His breathing falls apart. The money, the warrants, the kidnapping. A painful pause. "Tell me it's fake." He's begging now, not for answers, for mercy. For one lie he can still believe, but instead, he hears crying, deep, broken, hopeless. The sound of a man who knows the truth has finally caught him. "I'm sorry," Arthur's voice cracks. "God, I'm so sorry." Something inside Mark shatters, because innocent people deny accusations. Guilty people apologize. His entire body goes cold. "Why?" The word barely escapes. "Why would you do this?" Arthur struggles to breathe. Then he says something Mark never expects. "I didn't do it for money." Mark freezes. "And I didn't kidnap you." For a second, the world stops moving. Arthur starts talking faster, like he's running out of time. 15 years ago, Mark was dying. His heart was failing. Doctors gave up. Insurance refused to help. Weeks left, maybe less. Mark can't move, can't speak, can't even think. Then Arthur delivers the truth that destroyed his life and saved it. "I stole the money." A pause. "Because it was the only way to keep you alive." Mark's heartbeat pounds in his ears. Arthur explains everything. The accounts, the fraud, the billions hidden where nobody would ever find them. Money belonging to the same powerful men behind the fraternity. Men who believed they were untouchable. Arthur stole from them every dollar to pay for one thing, a heart. Then his voice drops to a whisper. "I bought your surgery, Mark." Another shaky breath. "I bought your future." Mark feels the phone slipping from his hand. "I bought your heart." The words hit harder than anything else. The phone crashes to the floor. Mark doesn't even notice. His hand slowly rises to his chest, and for the first time in his life, he can feel every beat, every thump, every second, because suddenly he understands something horrifying. The heart keeping him alive was paid for with stolen money, and the men who lost that money have been waiting 15 years to get it back, one way or another. The timer hits 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Then, click. The lock releases. Mark opens the door and walks back into the room. But something has changed. The panic is gone. The tears are gone. He doesn't feel afraid anymore. He barely feels anything at all. The room hasn't changed. The men are still waiting, still watching, still certain they control what happens next. Then Mark notices something new, a screen, and the second he sees it, His blood turns to ice. It's a live camera feed, his dad's shop, and parked nearby, a black SUV, waiting, watching, ready. Julian doesn't even look concerned. "Did you make the call?" Mark doesn't answer. Instead, he looks around the room, at the men in the chairs, the men who have barely spoken all night. And suddenly, everything makes sense. The realization hits so hard it almost knocks the air out of him. This was never an initiation, never a test, never a brotherhood. It was a hunt, and he was the bait. Those men weren't alumni, they were victims. Or at least, that's what they told themselves. The original owners, the original board, the powerful men his father robbed 15 years ago. They spent years searching for Arthur Vance, years chasing a ghost, and they never found him until Mark showed up, a broke kid, a scholarship student, desperate to build a future. They didn't recruit him, they used him. Mark didn't walk into their fraternity. He led them straight to his father. Julian slides a piece of paper across the table. It stops beside the countdown, 9 minutes remaining. Press publish. His voice is calm, almost friendly. The FBI gets the file, a small smile. Your father gets arrested, another pause. And you? Julian taps the paper. Get everything. Mark looks down. A contract, a partnership, a guaranteed future. More money than he has ever imagined. The kind of opportunity people spend their whole lives chasing. Julian leans forward. You step over the thief. A smile spreads across his face. And take your rightful seat at the table. The room falls quiet. Nobody argues. Nobody negotiates. Because they already know what most people would choose. Money, power, status, safety. They look at Mark and see a number, a price tag, a desperate kid who can be bought. Mark lowers his eyes. His hand slowly presses against his chest, and he feels it. The heartbeat his father sacrificed everything to give him. 15 years of hiding. 15 years of running. 15 years of carrying a crime that was never about greed, just love. The room waits for him to break, to fold, to sell the man who saved his life. But for the first time all night, Mark isn't scared, he's not confused, and he's definitely not tempted. Something else is taking over, something far more dangerous. Mark is angry. 45 seconds, that's all that's left. And suddenly, Mark looks defeated. His shoulders sink. His breathing falls apart. His hands start trembling again. Even a tear slips down his cheek. He looks exactly how they expect him to look. Broken, hopeless, ready to surrender. Across the room, Julian smiles because he thinks he's won. Mark slowly reaches toward the screen. His finger hovers over the red button. 40 seconds, 39, 38. Nobody moves. Nobody speaks. They're already imagining his future. Their future. Then Mark touches the screen, and nothing happens. Julian's smile fades, because Mark didn't press the button. He opened something else. What are you doing? Mark doesn't answer. His fingers race across the screen, fast, certain, focused. And suddenly Julian isn't smiling anymore, because while Mark was locked in that room, his father wasn't just confessing, he was preparing him. Every apology, every pause, every strange detail. It wasn't guilt, it was a roadmap, a final gift, a way to fight back. Mark enters the address, links the server, uploads the files, years of secrets, years of evidence, years of receipts, every crime, every payoff, every lie. Julian lunges forward. Stop him, but he's too late. Mark selects everything, the FBI, the SEC, every reporter that matters. Then he looks Julian directly in the eye and presses send. For a second, nothing happens. The room goes still. Then, buzz. One phone, buzz. Another. buzz, another, and another, and another. Suddenly the entire room erupts. The men who looked untouchable seconds ago are staring at their screens in horror. Their hands shake, their faces drain of color. Their carefully protected world is collapsing in real time. Mark watches them panic and realizes something. These men spent 15 years calling his father a thief, but they were never angry about the crime. They were angry because somebody stole from them. For the first time all night, they look scared. Julian grabs Mark by the collar, his face twisted with rage. "You idiot!" But Mark barely hears him because his eyes are somewhere else. His hand presses against his chest, right over his heart, the heart his father sacrificed everything to save, the heart that started this entire nightmare. And suddenly he understands. His father never stole a future from him. He gave him one, even if it cost him everything. Julian lets go. The room is falling apart around them, phones ringing, voices shouting, careers ending, empires burning. Mark turns and starts walking. Nobody stops him. Nobody can, because the powerful men who thought they owned him are too busy trying to save themselves. And as Mark walks away, he feels every heartbeat, strong, steady, alive. For years he thought that heart was proof of a crime. Now he knows the truth. It was proof of love. He may never be rich. He may never sit beside kings. He may never get the life they promised him. But none of that matters anymore, because the one thing they could never understand was the thing his father understood 15 years ago. Some people would rather lose everything than lose the person they love. And for the first time in his life, Mark finally understands what his father paid for. It wasn't a surgery. It wasn't a second chance. It was him. And as he walks away from the only future money could buy, for the first time in his entire life, he feels free. Mark walks outside. The rain has started again. His phone vibrates. One message from his father, just 3 words. "I'm proud of you." Mark stares at the screen. For a second he can't breathe, because all night he thought he was deciding whether his father deserved saving. Some people would rather lose everything than lose the person they love. 15 years ago, Arthur Vance made that choice. Tonight, Mark finally made the same one.